I'd like to take this opportunity to thank every single one of you who are here with us today. Just a little explanation. So this was intended to be a formal committee meeting to act on House Local Bill 24-5, but I'm not sure what happened. The OGA notice and agenda was not published in time for us to meet OGA requirements, so therefore this meeting has become an informal. I know that we checked the legislature's calendar, and it is published there now, but it wasn't there yesterday, this morning, and it's now there this afternoon. So because we didn't meet the OJ requirement, we are unable to conduct today's meeting as a formal meeting, and therefore we are unable to also act on the bill. But since we're all here and we have the author of the bill, and we did invite the zoning administrator, Ms. Teresa Gomoro, we will be more than happy to invite her into the chamber to go ahead and discuss the bill and receive comments and feedback from her. And at a later, we'll see how where this goes. And the next, if we decide to have another committee meeting, then we will take whatever actions we need to take during the committee meeting, or when we have our next SNILD session and we need to make some amendments on the bill, we can possibly do a floor amendment. But so those are kind of the options that we have this afternoon, and I just would like to take this opportunity to thank you for coming in. I don't think it's going to be a waste of time, although it's informal. But we'll go ahead and take the meeting since we're all here and we have our zoning administrator. So FYI, this informal meeting is being recorded and streamed live so that the public is aware of what's taking place this afternoon. And with that, I'd like to recognize the members who are here. So to my left, we have our Vice Speaker, Mr. Diego Camacho, our Chairman for SNILD, Mr. Representative JP Camacho, Sablon, my apologies. To his left, we have our floor leader, Representative Marissa Flores. To her left, we have our Representative BJ Attal. To his left, we have Representative Ray Palacios. Sorry. And to my right, we have Representative Denita Yangtimai. To her right, we have Representative Elias Rangamar. And to his right, we have Representative Danny Aquino. The Legislative Bureau staff who are here assisting us this afternoon, we have Legal Counsel Joe Tyrone and LA Claire Sablon. So with that, again, I would like to thank everyone for making the time to come up this afternoon. So with that said, we are in this informal meeting to discuss House Local Bill 24-5, which intends to amend the Saipan zoning law to define automobile sales and service and to establish a screening requirement for automobile sales and service business that are adjacent to certain zoning areas. We do have the author of the bill present with us today, so I would like to turn the floor over to the author to provide some comments if he wishes to. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to extend my appreciation to you and the Standing Committee on Zoning for entertaining House Local Bill 24-5, which is before this committee informally. And I want to thank also the Madam Administrator of our zoning office who is present here to also provide her inputs on it, and I thank this august body for doing so. I know that perhaps every member has received some comments from the Department of Commerce, the Mayor's Office of Saipan, and also comments from the Atkins Crow business on the piece of legislation before us in support. I know that we also do receive perhaps this morning the administrator's comments as well. And I know that at this moment, they're either in support or opposed to the proposed legislation. I read it as her request in asking this August body for ample time for them to provide a more in detail position on this proposed legislation. So perhaps as the author, this proposed legislation before us is pretty much just defining automobile sales and services so that the uses on certain zoning districts allows it. And that's pretty much it. I know that at the moment, I can scroll where you see in Puerto Rico, they are actually have been approved by the board for conditional use. And just defining further automobile sales and services, I guess the intent of this piece of legislation is just to have a more permanent usage within the certain zoning districts. So with that, I thank you guys for taking this time to allow the members to have more deeper open discussion on the proposed legislation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. My apologies, I forgot to also recognize our LB staff, Delbert Camacho for IT, and our Sergeant at Arms, Ben Terlahi. We did receive comments. We did send out requests for comments from to zoning, Department of Commerce, the Mayor's Office, Chamber of Commerce, and the AG's office, but we only received comments back from zoning, which, again, they are requesting for additional time to allow the staff to provide a more a different definition from what is provided on this bill. We did receive letters of support from the Mayor's Office and Department of Commerce and Atkins Crows. So at this time, I would like to open the floor for any members to ask any questions or clarifications regarding the bill, if any. Recognize Rep. Marissa Flores.
Thank you, Chairwoman. And I guess my question is, as the author of this bill said, was to seek clarity and truly define automobile sales and service. My question and my would be directed towards the administrator. The chairman or the author of the bill mentioned that it was approved with a conditional use, and that was back in March 2022, which is fairly recent. Do you have any record of those minute meetings in which the board had approved to give AK the conditional use permit?
Thank you, Rep. Flores. Yes, we do have record of that in the office.
Okay.
And we went through the application process.
If it's possible, would you be able to furnish this committee with the minutes of the conditional use? I guess that would include the date and then the action. And then the only reason why I'm asking that is because I'd like to see if there was a time limit, right, for this conditional use, because the zoning doesn't say 2-3 years of conditional use, it just says conditional. And so for us to truly define what that means, that would make it somewhat permanent. So if you could furnish that to us, I really appreciate it. And then my second question is, when you're looking at this particular zone and on your map, there's a whole section here that's green along this area. That's in question now, right? For the definition, and I know this might be going outside of what I'd like to discuss, but because it's relevant to zoning, My question would be, wouldn't it make more sense then if that whole area around the port, along the strip, right, be considered industrial? So you take everything from the easement, right, and you go back because you have now residential going this way, and just rezone that whole thing as an industrial area, because I'm pretty sure AK's intent was to deploy those cars from point of entry directly to where they're going, which makes sense as a business person. Would that be something that this board can consider and just turn that whole area, that whole middle portion, as an industrial?
That's an issue that we'll gladly bring it up before the board. Again, our upcoming text amendments will include proposed rezones to the map, official zoning map. But what the steps that will be taken would be staff would do the study and propose recommendations to the changes, which the board will review and approve or deny. After that, it will go out to the public for comment.
Okay. And I think that's important because when you're looking at that area, that's a very heavy industrial area. And I'm not saying this against Annex because they've been there before, but in terms of zoning and the conditional use in which the board had approved, I think maybe the long-term vision wasn't really considered because at some point you have CUC over there with their power water, you have the port, you have Shell gas station, you have a staging and holding ground for the container, heavy equipment, cement, industrial material, or just along that area. I don't know. If you could probably bring that back and maybe really consider that portion, because if it's purple already and identified as industrial, then I'm saying just everything from the easement and you go back to where CUC is, in my mind, I'm visualizing it's a straight line between AK, CUC, and the gas station, and then everything above that can be residential or hotel, because it would make sense if you're building backwards as a residential, because now you're building upwards as opposed to forward. And what can you really do with that? I mean, who's gonna want to build a hotel next to a water catchment or a water area that's, or it's heavy and
Yes,
industrial
again,
use?
we
Okay.
can include that as part of your recommendation.
Okay, thank you so
yeah.
much.
Thank you, Rep. Marissa. You yield? Do you yield? Okay. I do apologize, Administrator Ogumoro. I completely forgot to introduce you. So for those who are just tuning in, we also have our zoning administrator, Ms. Teresa Ogumoro. Thank you for making the time to come in today and try to answer some of the questions the members may have about not the opposition, but the request to hold off on any actions to be taken on this bill, particularly to allow your staff to provide a more specific definition to the automobile sales. But since you're here, if I could just read out a portion of the letter that you submitted, and maybe you can help us understand why that is. So in your letter dated June 18, 2025, you had stated the following outlines a few important reasons for our request to allow zoning to propose an appropriate definition of this use. Number one, the bill's definition of automobile sales and services use includes general activities of a vehicle repair, general, or auto shop use which currently requires a conditional use application review and public hearing before the board under the law. So could you please elaborate a little bit further on that part of the letter.
Thank you, Chairwoman. So that literally means that some of the activities within the language of the bill, within the proposed definition within the bill, contains activities that are within the vehicle repair general use, and that is equivalent to an auto shop. For instance, paint work, body work, and detailing and stuff. So with that, we feel that the staff needs more time to look at it. These are actually activities that are considered intense and most proper within the vehicle auto repair.
So does zoning currently have a list of those types of activity existing so that we can, I mean, because you're asking for additional time and, you know, it's very vague on the letter as to how much time you will need. It says sometime this year, but sometime this year could mean November, December. How much time is zoning asking for?
It's actually targeted for text amendments to be reviewed by the board first and then given out to the public and hopefully be transmitted to your to the SNILD for your review within the earliest late September or late November.
Okay, so that's the timeline that zoning is looking at.
Yes.
Is there a reason why the board needs additional, I guess, description or more specifics on the definition of the bill? I mean, if zoning is already enforcing, right? And when they go out to do inspection, they already have a list of the types of activities that would be a requirement or compliance for that type of business. So how difficult is that to incorporate into the definition that is provided on this bill?
Well, actually, the only use that is defined within the law is vehicle auto general. Sorry. Automobile sales and services use is not defined, but all the activities that are clearly defined in the law is vehicle repair general, which is an auto shop. The reason for staff wanting additional time on this is, again, this calls for a new definition to be inserted, a new use to be inserted in, and we do want to include it as a package along with the rest of the text amendments.
Okay. I'm trying to imagine what other definitions your staff may be proposing to ensure that the definition that's stated on this bill is clear. I guess I'm not I don't know why. I'm not really understanding what else needs to be added to the bill to define it better for zoning's purposes. So can you give us
An example?
an example? Yes.
Okay, well, so in Article 4, I'm not sure if you have the copy of the law with you. We have definition of vehicle repair general, and some of those activities, which include paint booth or body works, auto body works, are included within that use, vehicle auto repair.
Okay.
General.
Okay.
And those same activities are within the definition being proposed within the bill for automobile sales and services. Well, zoning, primarily looked at the use automobile sales and services to only include maintenance and services on the automobiles that they sell or that customers buy. That language, the proposed language as it is now, means that it's going to be expanded to include more activities of repair activities.
Okay, so
Then-
I guess that's where I'm getting at, right? If you're saying
Yeah.
there's gonna be more that's added, what are some of those additional activities that you guys would like to add on to the definition?
I cannot really detail our comments right now on what is going to be added, but I can see that there are things that need to be deleted. Openly now.
Can you give some examples of some of the
Paint and body work. These include, activities that would have a potential negative effect on the environment, noise.
So how
odor.
would that affect, let's use Atkins Grow, right?
Okay.
Because they are not just a dealership, but also a repair, right? They repair their own vehicles that come out of their lots and body work, I'm assuming, when there's a crash, when there's an accident. So if we are deleting those types of activities, how would that impact AK when they're already in existence in that location? That would create issues for them, because then now they'll be violating this, the law. If we
Actually, it's not preventing them from doing the activity.
but
It's
the
only
zoning of it,
because-
right? Because they would have
Yeah, it is an activity that is intense that I believe should require the board's review and approval.
So help
on
me
that one.
understand, if you guys issue the conditional permitting, knowing that they are not just a dealership, but also a repair business, like what's in the conditional permitting? Are you saying that that type of activity is not allowed?
Actually, if we're really referring to AK right now, they can operate. They've been given a conditional use permit, so I don't really understand what's the difference with this bill, because they
Well-
can operate right now.
I mean, I'm using A-Care right now because they're the only dealership there, right? But let's say in the future, 10 years from now, we have other interested businesses in, putting up their dealership there. Normally in other jurisdictions, there's usually a strip of a street where it's mostly just like car dealerships, right? So I'm anticipating that in the future, maybe the whole Puerto Rico strip of road will be, used for car dealerships. So what we want to do is do more of a permanent solution and not go on conditional permits, right? Because
Yes.
it's cleaner that way. So that's why I'm using AK as an example,
Yes.
not because, we're giving preferential treatment, but I'm anticipating this to be, used across the board in the future. So, if what I'm hearing you saying is that you guys would like to delete certain types of activities,
That may be the action, yes.
what impact would that have on an existing business right now? They will be in violation of the zone, and would that, I mean, you guys already gave them the conditional permit anyway, right? But and just looking at the big picture, if you give them a conditional permit, but yet the zoning law says this type of activity is not allowed, like, it's very contradictory.
No, let me just go back a little bit. They were given a conditional use permit because of the vehicle repair general use that they applied for. So they applied for 2 uses.
Okay,
The automobile sales and services,
okay.
which is
That one's
permitted,
straightforward, okay.
straightforward.
Yes,
And vehicle repair general, which put them through the conditional use. And so it's just like that. Those activities within the vehicle repair general are a little bit intense, that requires the board's review and assessment, to mitigate impact on the environment.
sure. I mean, hypothetically, let's just say if we did consider the recommendation to delete certain activities, such as that, the ones that you were saying that would have an impact on the environment, would that place them at risk for maybe revocation of the conditional use permit for not the sales portion of it, but the repair general, right? Because now if we amend the law to remove certain types of activity in that zoning area, they would be violating the requirement?
No, there won't be any amendment to the law on, to delete anything from the law, because automobile sales and service is not defined yet. So we're just saying if you're proposing to include this to be defined within the law, then we are asking for time to find the most appropriate definition that would consist of activities that will not, be create negative impacts,
Okay.
such as pollution, traffic, odor, light, dust.
How is that different from when they were located on Beach Road?
They became a non-conforming on Beach Road.
Okay,
So the existing dealerships now are non-conforming within the Beach Road zoning
so
district.
they've been non-conforming for a number of years?
Correct.
I'm just learning this, so in my mind is like, if they've been non-conforming, how were they able to stay in business for the longest time if, who was enforcing them for the non-compliance?
The non-conforming article within the law also, that gives them, they are allowed to continue operation, but they are non-conforming, meaning any new automobile sales and services wanting to set up business on Beach Road will not be permitted.
I see, okay. Thank you
New.
for the clarification. I'd like to recognize Rep. Flores.
Thank you, Chairwoman. And Mr. Reese, my heart just goes out to you, honestly, because you are the administrator. When we know that the board really does all of the approvals of these permits, you just take what we give you and you go to them and you say, this is what they said, and they become the you're the enforcer. They become Marlin. They just create magic, right? But really, your job is to administer. They have a different function. So that goes back to the conditional use. And so when the board gave the conditional use, which is what you guys are using on your scale, the letter C at the intersection of a column and row means, which is this one, the use is a conditional use and is only allowed in the zoning district after receiving approval for a conditional use permit, which the board said, AK, you can. And we're only using AK as an example, okay? Now, this bill says to define it, but when you look, God, you just gotta love AI. So when you look and you say that the board said a conditional use on auto dealership. A dealership is a business that sells vehicles, often specializing in a specific brand, or a type of vehicle that provides service like financing, services, maintenance, etc., right? Auto sales, on the other hand, refers to the broader activity of selling vehicles, which encompass sales from dealerships, private sellers, and online platforms. So here's my question. When you're going down south and you have, let's say, DPA Car Mart, how would you define that in a zoning, approving a zoning permit? Is that a dealership or is that auto sales?
Automobile sales.
Okay. That would also be AK also, right?
I believe, yes.
Yeah. So it's all the same at the end of the day, right? Okay. But clearly, it's two different things because now when you take this bill, the author's clearly defining it. Engage in the marketing, direct or indirect sales, and servicing of new and used automobiles, including light trucks and motorcycles. Typical activities include vehicle sales, manufacturing, recall. Oh, this takes it all the way to the science and breakdown, right? Parts replacement, all of this stuff. But a dealership actually does this because it's to a specific brand maintaining their own vehicles. So, I guess the board, should you go back to your board, Ms. Ogumoro, let them know that the definition really should not come from this body. They gave the conditional permit on use of dealership, so the conditional permit should be the one to define what that is. And if removing auto sales, because clearly there's a difference in definition, adding automobile dealership, because apparently they already know what that is when they gave them the permit to go ahead and build their $21 million facility. And that wasn't your doing, ma'am. I know that you had just gotten on board, and that's why my heart goes out to you, because you seem to come back and always like kryptonite. And all you're trying to do is help and give back to the community that you serve. But the board seems to be clearly doing things that allows them to do within their powers. My recommendation to you, Ms. Gamoro, is to let your board know that you had one representative that would like them to clearly define automobile dealership, because they actually knew what that meant when they gave the conditional permit. And this automobile sales, that can be defined on the secondhand cars that are being dealt, and all these, what do they call those smaller cars, the tuk-tuk vehicles? K-trucks, you know, those can be sales because they don't provide maintenance. They go to somebody else to provide their maintenance. But when you're dealing with dealership, that's very specific. Very specific. So here's my other question, I guess, as an example. Mr. Gomoro, Triple J on Beach Road, is that automobile sales or is that automobile dealership?
I believe it also falls under automobile sales and service.
Okay.
Yeah, they're under the retail sales and services.
Okay. But they're not complaining because the land that they own in the back, that's theirs too. So they really, their tenants shouldn't be complaining because that's part of their landlord's occupancy, right?
Where they're at now, then
Yeah.
I believe so.
Okay, yeah, well, which is why they won't be complaining. None of their tenants will be complaining because the landlord also owns the dealership in the front. Not like what we have, this situation going on now with this particular bill, because it greatly affects the residents of Annex, and rightfully so, because they're thinking of their peace, they're thinking of the environment, they're thinking whatever the situation is. But yeah, I think for me, Madam Chair, I would like respectfully request that Ms. Ogumura go back, maybe write an email to your board chairman and let him know that I don't think that we should be responsible for clearly defining it when it's already been there, and he should have, that's a board function, and the board should have fixed that from the very beginning. The legislature should not have any role in that type of policy making when it already gives the power of the zoning board to clearly define what their role is, and apparently that's what they did. So, and again, my apologies to you that you have to come here and really receive all of this stuff, because, you know, you're just trying to do your job. And at the end of the day, it is really the board that decides what it needs to do. So I think I don't have any more questions, although I do believe that this should be tabled. This should be tabled, and then maybe another meeting with the board, because if we're giving a timeline to Ms. Ogumoro to pull out those documents and the minutes where the board had approved conditional permits, then that requires a sit down with them, because why are we here? Really? They have a function, they have a duty, that's their job. Why are they coming over here to ask us to fix it? I yield my time.
Thank you, Rep. Flores, and thank you, Ms. Ogumoro, for answering. Any other members? I'll recognize Vice
Thank you, Chair.
Speaker.
And thank you, Administrator. Would you happen to know the status of the ongoing litigation or with AK and Annex? Is that still ongoing? Has it been settled? Or?
I'm sorry, I cannot comment on that. I'm not familiar with I know that there is, but I'm not sure what the status is.
Thanks for that. And just to chime in on what our floor leader had mentioned earlier, and Council, would you feel free to chime in? Absent this legislation, is this something that, if this body entertains, would have a impact on whatever, if it's still in the courts, render any kind of decision? I mean, for us to be the ones to act on this and not the board, does that make sense? Yeah. Yes. Right. Is it right though? Does it render it moot? You know. Yeah, I'm just not comfortable with, us fixing something that, yeah, you know what I mean?
Sometimes it's the better way to go, because litigation is when the judges decide, and legislation is when the stakeholders decide. The way I look at it.
All right, thank you. I'll just ponder on that for a little bit. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice. Real quick, Council, the issue, does it require legislation to fix it, or is that something that can be taken care of at the regulation level?
So what I was putting up on the screen was we legislate the zoning code.
Right.
So if we're gonna add a section K, then that's legislation. So yes, we would do that.
Okay, because,
And we could always legislate that the zoning board promulgates regs.
which is normally the case, right? We provide the skeleton of it, and then we allow the agency, give them the autonomy to promulgate their regs.
When it comes to regs, yes.
Yes.
But for zoning code, we've traditionally
Oh, I see, okay,
we have a whole hard copy at like 2013.
okay. Any other members? Recognize Rep. Flores. Recognize,
Thank you, Chair.
Rep. Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Gomero. Just a question. I know the intention. Before the zoning came up, I had a sister-in-law that rented out a land next to ours and an automobile shop. and they had the painting and all the stuff, and, you know, the noise and all that, and we were just like, you know, maybe 50 feet apart, so I understand that part. But I wanted to ask you, because a lot of the businesses are small businesses, if this does pass, like, or gets through, like, what, do you guys have a support program for those small businesses? Let's say they have hardships and, you know, coming up with, you know, to meet the, you know, regulations there. You guys have any, like, maybe timelines or something for them to, like, if you know, they were given citation or something, or even a support program, maybe some
Yes.
money
We go through a compliance process.
Okay.
That it involves giving time, sitting down, and finding out, you know, what the
The
plan
needs,
is,
yeah.
what their needs are, and the request for extension of time. And then we'll work through that.
Yeah.
We call it compliance.
Okay, because I understand with the hardships that they're going through, that they might just kind of, like, you know, sometimes seen a lot of them just kind of slip through the crack, and so appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Rep. Rangamar. Anybody else? Recognize Rep. Flores.
Thank you, Chairwoman, and that's a good example, Rep. Ogumoro, because, I'm sorry. We got a lot of Camachos today, we got, Rangamar, Rep. Rangamar, my apologies, sir. But that is a good point, because you see that there is this, almost, it's unfair, right? You got small businesses that are just trying to survive. We don't know how this zoning comes, and we're not blaming you, Ms. Ogumoro, right? Maybe this was done way before. And then you have big corporate conglomerates that invest millions of dollars and are zoned, and then you have the small business trying to do whatever it is they need to do, put the investment in, get the whatever permits they need, and now that we're going to restructure everything and rezone everything, the investment is lost. There's no liability, there's a lot of liability, and there's no insurance for that, right? I think the board does have some funding here. Maybe we can take it out of the board. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna make a lot of friends for that comment, but I'm just saying that, you know, there's a disparity. There is a unjust when it comes to planning. And that's not, you inherited this, just like a lot of us inherited what is happening now and what we're trying to do as a legislature, as a team, to fix it, right? So that our generations don't go back and have to deal with this whole process all over again. Which I was going somewhere with this, and I completely just lost my train of thought. So, yeah, my colleagues are telling me to recess and stop, but you're already here, so once you're here, we just have to keep asking you the questions, because then we don't know when we're gonna see you again. So I guess, Joe, then really, the board can actually do a resolution like they've done a resolution for many things. Since they can grant permits, right?
They can grant permits pursuant to the law that we provide to them. So
Okay, but then even on resolutions, they can redefine a zone without even telling us that they redefined the zone.
I don't know if I agree with that, because the administrator's power is to interpret reasonably based on.
But they've done it, so I'm just saying, so if they just keep on track with what they're doing and the resolution, right? They still have the powers to do it based on interpretation.
Let me ask, as I read the code, administrator, you have the power expressly by the law to interpret the code, but it doesn't give you the power to make the code.
Correct, Counsel. There is, however, a section 7242 within the code that empowers the board to initiate a change. And this includes change in zoning districts or use.
Are you referring to this body of law, this amended zoning code of 2013, or something else?
The zoning code.
Zoning code.
Zoning code.
Zoning code in general, not the Saipan zoning law.
In general.
Okay.
In general.
You want to give me the site and I can pull it up?
7242.
7242. Which title?
Changes in
Remember, is it 4 CMC or 1 CMC? Which?
2
2
CMC.
CMC 7402. Thanks. 7202? 7202?
Correct.
Maybe not. Let me just go to the zoning code. That's Title 10. Hold on. Let me find it.
Seven two four two,
7242.
and that's under C, subsection C.
Okay. Title 2, Section. Yeah.
Subsection A and C. A and C.
I'm on Chapter 2, Zoning Code. General? Zoning districts, maybe? Article 4, 7242.
Yeah, there.
So. Yeah, I would agree that the chairwoman's probably right that we can interpret this to give the power to the board and to the administrator, because it says changes may be initiated by the board, the administrator, and those changes are concern the boundaries, uses, and requirements. So that's pretty broad. Yeah. Yep. So this is Public Law 6-32, before our time. Yeah. We also have done it this way, right? Any change in the boundaries, uses, or requirements may be amended or changed by law enacted by the legislative delegation. So this is the way that I was talking about. Different way of skinning a cat.
But right there on number 1 is very clear. We're all the way at D. Let's just go straight to the top.
Yeah. So whoever wants to be the good guy or the bad guy can be
Well,
the
with
good guy or the bad guy.
with the text amendments and the amendments to the official zoning map, that's what we're gonna put out for board review, adoption, then public comments, and then it'll be forwarded to you for further adoption, further review.
Even though you could do it arguably by yourself.
I believe the board, I'll put that under board's advisement. Yeah.
If I may, Administrator, sorry. So, and just rereading again the proposed amendment, right, on page 2, section 2, letter K, it's defining auto sales and service as an establishment engaged in the marketing, direct or indirect sales, and servicing of new and used automobiles, including light trucks and motorcycles. Typical activities include vehicle sales, manufacturer recall work, diagnostics, maintenance such as tune-ups and oil changes, mechanical repairs, parts replacement, paint work, body work, glass work, washing, detailing, and warranty repair work. Automobile sales and service businesses may also include sales lots, showrooms, and repair and service centers. Automobile sales and service businesses shall be screened from adjoining properties in village residential, village commercial, rural, mixed commercial, or beach road zoning district. Such screening shall consist of appropriate vegetation or fencing designed to minimize the business visual, noise, and operational impacts. So, if zoning is requesting for additional time to better clarify the definition, which specific language on this section of K is zoning concerned of? Because as I read it, it's actually pretty detailed. So I'm just wondering what your staff could possibly add more to this definition that's already pretty specific.
We just offhand, Chairwoman, line 15 would be a concern for the board and
Line
staff.
15 of page 2.
Yes,
Okay,
that
so-
includes the paint work, body work, glass work, detailing.
I mean, but that's part of a,
Paint work and body work specifically, yeah.
so, but that's what a dealership does. If the car gets into a collision and requires,
Right.
an overall paint, right? Like, what,
Yes.
I mean,
That
how
may-
else could you
that may
reword
be-
that or rephrase it?
And that is why we want to, we want sufficient time to look at it, because it's, as it stands, it's saying that these activities will be permitted, right? These activities will be under automobile sales and services, which will be permitted.
Right.
We're only saying with enough time, the staff can recommend a proper definition and may also look into.
So proper definition to the two words that you described, such as
No.
the body paint and.
Proper definition to automobile sales and services, as well as the activities that need to go before the board for full assessment of any environmental impact.
But-
Paint work, body work will involve, intense repair work that may have a
Sure.
negative impact on that.
So again, going back to the case of AK, so when they were granted the conditional use permitting, weren't all of that considered before they actually got approved for the conditional use?
Again, I cannot confirm, but it went through conditional use.
And earlier, Rep. Marissa was defining what a car dealership is, and obviously, everything that I just read out with the as defined, as the proposed definition for this amendment, covers the that type of activity. So, AK has been an existing car dealership for decades, and so is Jotun, and maybe even, I don't know about Triple J. But if the definition that's provided on this proposed amendment is not sufficient, I'm trying to understand what other words could your staff possibly recommend to substitute, some of the word definition that was used in here.
The only
Are you
thing-
asking this because your staff requested to provide additional recommendation for the definition, or is it the board that's asking?
No, actually, I'm the one asking.
Oh, you're asking, okay.
Because my staff, including myself, we're looking at, you know, we
I
want
mean,
to
so
be able
something
to
must
have
have prompted you to
Yeah,
request for additional,
these activities.
description.
You're right. These activities that are listed under this definition, I feel it's more appropriate for the board or for it to go through conditional use. The reason is because the public needs to know the impact of any potential impact that it would
Okay,
create.
so
you
let's
know?
go back and help me understand, what is the purpose of the process of requesting for a conditional use permit? Because if we're gonna go through every single board review and approval for every type of business like that, like, can you imagine the delay that this could have on businesses? As we all know, AK had already spent over $20 million in just the facility, and I'm not using, AK because it just so happened that they're there, okay? So again, looking forward 10 years from now, I mean, if this is the process that we're always gonna require the board to review and approve, like, this should already be like a standard process with criterias, right? And have a checklist of all the things that you wanna review. And if it then, if it requires additional review by the board and approval, then I can understand that. But Saipan is a very small island, and the likelihood of us having 10 dealerships on the island is very unlikely, right? So I think I feel like we are creating, these obstacles for a simple I don't know what to call it, but it's a very small island with the likelihood of having probably 2 or 3 dealership that's probably gonna have the same type of activity. So, sometimes it doesn't require. I mean, I can see if the volume of such activities is huge, right? Then yeah, maybe we should have more controls in place. But I think, to require such a lengthy process just to, for something that's already in existence, I'm just trying to understand your rationale and where you're coming from to feel the need that the board must be the one that reviews and approve.
Actually, I think, let me, clarify that. The reason why I say it has activities that are more appropriate for the board to assess is because the board assesses all conditional use applications. And all conditional use applications involve the public's comment
Sure.
for any impact on the use to the adjacent properties.
Okay, so
So-
let's just take it back then. So let's say never mind AK, company ABC is a brand new company that wants to open a car dealership on the island. Help me understand what the process would be. Is that something that zoning would review and assess whether the area where they want to build their facility is the appropriate area that's within the zoning district requirement? And then at that point, does zoning also assess the environmental impact before you guys actually issue the permit to the business to start operation? I mean, the only reason why AK in this instance is requesting for a conditional permit because they're an existing business transferring to a different location, right? But if the example was for a brand new company ABC wanting to open a new car dealership, let's say in Puerto Rico, what would that process be?
They would be an automobile sales and services would be permitted in Puerto Rico. Just
Would they
like
have to go through the
AK.
conditional permit process?
If they are involved with vehicle repair.
I mean, but that's what an
General.
auto sales is, right? And dealership, they typically involve activities such as that, because when the vehicles are damaged or, get into accidents,
Yes,
they would bring the car to the shop where they bought it from, and then the car dealership would be then the response,
right.
right?
And just
So-
clarifying, Chair, just clarifying that those types of activities are, once again, within the law, required to go through conditional
So
use
even as a brand new
process.
business, they
Correct.
would have to request for a conditional use permit.
If it involves a vehicle out of repair,
Okay,
okay?
all right.
Those, once again, it's straightforward in the law, Article 7,
Okay,
that they go before the board, and the board, makes a decision on whether they meet all the qualifying conditions based on staff's assessment also.
okay. So Article 7, okay, so we probably need to take a look at that. Thank you. Recognize Rep. Aquino. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wimore.
Good afternoon.
My concern is in our district, we have small auto shops, and they too sell cars. They're in residential areas. You've got body repair, which also transmits lead dust in the public, but yet they're allowed to open up their small auto shops. A lot of them have left. They vacated the premise, but yet they have their used oil in buckets that are still there. They have junk cars that are still there, but yet what has zoning done to mitigate all of these things? The same thing that goes, sometimes I see that these regulations, for lack of a better word, are too restrictive. When does a conditional permit become permanent? I don't want to invest $20 million to just have something conditional, and then maybe it might be taken away, maybe through another administration, through connections, and then where does my $20 million investment become sound that I don't need to worry about that being taken away from me? Then I see another issue, the same thing with BCQ. We had this military training, and they talk about wastewater from showers. So we had to prepare a catchment system to catch the water. But yet, high school are able to fundraise and car wash on gas stations, but yet that wastewater goes to the ground. And you know what they said? No one has ever brought that to our attention, but it's a very good thing that you brought up. So that's why I say that sometimes I think all these regulations, I think we need to ease up. Our economy is not good. And if there's a way to make things more inviting in zoning, then I think you should do it. Because all of these things, AK, to be honest, $20 million and then for a conditional permit, I don't know, I'd fire somebody.
Thank you, Rep. Aquino. Chairwoman, can I just respond to?
Sure.
I would like to clarify that the conditional use application, it's called a conditional use application because it is issued based on conditions imposed by the zoning board. But it is permanent. It is not conditional. I mean, it is not. It's not going to be taken away for a short term. If the applicant or permittee does not fulfill the conditions, then that's when zoning will act on revoking.
Thank you for clarifying, but what I'm trying to say is that can't we have like a uniform policy? What about those small residential auto shops that opened up in CK? Some of them are there. a lot of them are not there. Was there a conditional permit granted for them?
I'm gonna
Because
have to look into.
There,
look into
there may
that.
be like maybe 5 or more small auto shops that left their remnants behind. So if you're talking about a conditional permit, you know, who was doing the checks? Did they check when these guys left after Typhoon U2? Did they try to communicate with them to pick up their used cars? I mean, their broken cars that were still there, the used oil that were in buckets? Because who's responsible now for that? Now that they're gone. We're talking conditional permit. So I'm assuming then that those small auto shops, which also sells their cars that they buy from insurance companies, they fix it up. Those were also probably granted conditional permits. Am I correct?
No, sorry, you're not correct. First of all, the law does not permit auto shops within residentials right now. So they may be in violation. We have also identified a lot of violators that will be taking action.
So what about those that have, are they like grandfathered or something?
If they're permitted, yeah, before zoning, then they continue, yes.
So I just have something there.
Yes, recognize Rep.
No, I'm looking at the cinemyzoning.com. So I think what is wagon rental?
Honey
Oh.
wagon,
Yes, wagon rental.
honey wagon,
Oh,
the
really?
pool.
Okay. So, no, no, I'm looking at the categories, because they have categories of uses, right? So we have we have automobile sales and services, that's one category. And under this wagon rental, we have the vehicle repair general. So you're saying that this, remember the run-on we were talking about? So the one that Rep. Potsu did, the legislation is like a run-on, because it's combining everything from automobile sales and vehicle repair general. So I guess the administrator wants that to be separated. The automobile sales
Actually,
and
yes,
vehicle repair general has to be,
thank you, Rep.
separated,
They
no?
are separated right
because
now.
what Fatsu did was he just jam-packed everything. The sales and repairs. So,
And just, thank you, Rep. Yang Tumai.
yeah.
But generally,
like
right,
she
when you
said,
have
it's
a,
the law, so I guess that's
Yeah,
their
but-
law.
and
Yeah.
I understand, you know, that she prefers that if they're separated, right, but not, but when you think of a car dealership, right, it
Yes.
encompasses all of that,
It's
so it wouldn't make sense to
services.
like separate those things, because that's what a car dealership is.
Yes.
It encompasses all types of activities, you know, related to the maintenance and service of repairs of vehicles. So if we were to separate that, then, you know, that's, I understand for smaller car sales, there wouldn't be dealership because they're not bringing in the cars themselves, right? So I don't know what you call them, that type of business or sales. So automotive sales, right? Because a car dealership
They're
is
selling cars,
very,
so-
it's very specific, right? They bring in the cars that they typically have a specific type of brand that they, you know, they are authorized to bring in and sell. But with that, they also have to provide the maintenance, the repair, you know, everything that comes with the dealership. So if we're gonna start separating and categorizing these types of activity, you know, then that kind of just dismantles what a car dealership is, because now you're not, you know, you're breaking it in different parts. Recognize Rep. Flores.
Thank you, Chairwoman. You know, I love debates like this because then it just reminds me why we're back here. We keep discussing. It sounds petty to some, but it's huge for a lot of people. And so for me, you know, when you look at dealership and auto sales, right? I'm gonna take just one place in my village. I'm not gonna say where it is, but it's there. So it's right next to the road. It's right next to the road, okay? You got all these cars just park all over the place. Then you go back and they're fixing the cars. And then you go across the street, and it was at one point a staging and a holding for other cars. Those cars weren't new. So those were secondhand cars, which they all are secondhand right now in that place. So that's auto sales. For me, the part that I'm having a problem with when we're trying to define what the difference between dealership has its already in-house finance, their insurance, everything, whatever it is that you're gonna buy that car, it's all in there. Whatever you need to do, that's it. And then if you have a problem, they can fix the warranties. They offer warranties. They offer all kinds of stuff. But when you go into auto sales, it's just okay. It's almost like borrowing a loan, but not from the bank. You go to the loan shark or whatever it is, where your APR is so high and all that stuff. So that's for me. That's the difference. So I get it. I understand, but really, once again, it is really not our place. So my question to you is, Ms. Ogumoro, how many conditional permits, and I hope that you can give us this data, conditional permits exist as it relates to automobile sales and automobile, that one category there, automobile sales and repair, whatever it is. Do you know right off the top of your head how many conditional licenses or permits are right now in existence that fall under that category?
We had one and maybe another one coming up.
On automobile sales?
And that was AK.
Wait, so then how do you
Conditional.
define? Yeah, there has to be more then, because what about the ones in the residential that just popped up during COVID? That's just very recent. That's new. Those had to be given conditional permits approved by the board. Because at one time, there was not enough dealerships and there was not enough cars that the CNMI government was purchasing. And that were the ones they had to get from either Island Rent-A-Car, right? And they turn around and they sell their cars. So that's automotive sales. That's not dealership. So, yeah.
We have auto rentals. We have the auto rental section of the law. Council, can you put up that Article 4? Yes.
And I'm getting somewhere with that, Secretary, because now I think we need to bring commerce in here and really take a look at these conditional licenses. Because if they're auto sales at second hand, I don't think any bank, maybe not the ones here, would finance these cars unless they're gonna finance from me, right?
Where the article,
Yeah. Where would you finance?
page,
See what I'm saying?
page
So
26.
sales is very different from dealership. That's safer.
Yeah, there. So if you can see, there's auto rental office and auto rental office with storage, staging, and service.
There we go. Now, okay. If I'm confused looking at this, I'm pretty sure anybody applying for a permit would also be confused applying. I would just cover the whole thing and just take everything and one permit and say, I'll take it from auto rental office storage, automobile
Yes.
sales, I will take over everything. So my question, Ms. Ogumoro, in terms of automobile sales and service, okay? Actually, no, I'm sorry, excuse my language. Auto rental office with storage. I'm assuming that this is where that particular business fits in. Staging and service on site. Is that what you would call or define right. But it's secondhand vehicles that they're selling, but that's not clearly defined, and nobody would enforce what kind of cars they're selling because they're not new. Therefore, yeah. Auto rental?
Yes, with staging.
We're staging? Oh my God, I'm so confused. Auto
They're
rental.
renting the vehicles, used cars.
They sell. Yeah. So you
If
guys are
they are
cracking down on all
renting-
of this stuff. I guess in a nutshell, you guys are following up with all the permits.
Yes,
Okay,
we try
so-
our very best to do that.
All right, so now you're actually in the process of sifting through all of the, oh, Mora, we really appreciate it.
We're at your service, Representative. Oh, sorry. Can you go ahead? Keep going. Mm. Oh,
I saw in section 1308 that the conditional use will expire in 12 months unless it's exercised. And then at that point, it basically graduates into a permanent.
yes. If no construction activities commence, it'll expire within a year.
But if it's exercised, then it's basically allowed to be permanent.
Permanent. It is permanent.
With AK, I'm assuming.
Correct? Yes. So there's a section, Rep. Flores, under adult gambling. Pretty sure it's under 6.
I think it's page 27, adult gambling, is that machine business? Because you don't have casino. It just says adult gambling. Is that defined as casino?
No, there's a provision there. If you can go, hold on just a minute.
Are we still in the Article 6?
Should be in Article 6. 612? Section 612. And then subsection B3.
Restrictions on adult gaming shall not apply to the holder of the, 1856 exempt.
Oh, jeez.
Public Law 1856.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Thank you, Secretary. I mean, obviously, once again, this might have been a conditional decision at the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Flores, and
You're
thank you,
welcome.
Administrator. I have a question. So if we go back to that checklist, Joe, that was showing all the different types of category, that this is from zoning, right? This particular one here. Yeah. So what under this checklist? How is the where is it? Automobile sales and service defined on this?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it gets to J and it stops.
So how does zoning define this particular category on this checklist? Because I'm trying,
Automobile sales,
yeah.
dealers, automobile sales. You sell new and used
So that would
cars.
be
Yes.
a dealership.
Yes.
And then what is zoning's definition of a car dealership? to include what activities?
Nothing really. It wasn't defined because it's just the use itself. The use as it sells automobile
But
and
but
it services the
but
automobile.
so okay, so automobile sales and service is also means a car dealership, right? So it's one and the same. And then if so, are you saying that for every car dealership that we have on island, they went through an application for conditional use because of environmental impact?
No, they go through. They don't go through conditional at all. It's just permitted within the mixed commercial and industrial.
So so how is that any different for AK? Why did they have to go through the
Okay, because AK had they in their application they applied for automobile sales and
Sales,
services
yes.
and vehicle repair general. The vehicle repair general required them to go through conditional use.
So, I mean, so for why is there a different category than for vehicle repair general when under a car dealership that's already a given? Why is that a separate? Why did they have to request for an additional permit when in a dealership you that encompasses everything already?
I can't answer for them.
Okay, so it was
Yeah.
their they decided to apply
I
for two
believe
different permits.
they decided to apply. I'm not sure. Like I said, I wasn't
Okay.
here when that.
But you know, so then I'm gonna go back to zoning then. So when zoning receives these requests, these applications, right? And upon review, if they see that there's something that coincides or they're one and the same, why wouldn't they say, you know, there's no need for you to apply for this because actually if you apply for this, it already covers that.
We have to do that. That's why we go through preliminary assessments.
Right,
of
so
applications.
it looks like you guys did go through that review, but still decided to review and approve both permits, right? One for the sales and one for the vehicle repair general. But what I'm saying is, initially, when you first received the application and you reviewed it and you see that there's an application for a vehicle repair general, but also understanding that there's an application for a car dealership, which already encompasses all of that type of activity, why would you proceed and go through the process of approving two separate permits? It should just be one, right? Because a car dealership, we already know that it includes all types of activities covered under vehicle repair. That's what a vehicle. That's
I
what
think I think the only difference there, and that's probably, I'm guessing, that's probably why AK decided to go through the vehicle repair general, is because of the paint booth and the body work.
right. But again,
These activities are
but going
within
back
them.
to a car dealership, right? They do provide that service. in
You're
any car-
correct, but they have to go through conditional use in the vehicle repair general. Those two activities specifically,
So
they
is
may
it-
have environmental negative impact, negative environmental impact. So it requires them to go through conditional use.
So is there a J because there is the possibility that a company may open strictly providing that specific service? Is that why it's separate from?
Yes.
But okay, so if a car dealership is also providing vehicle repair, then they must apply for a conditional permit, even though it's already understood that they are a car dealership which provides all of that type of service. What-
That's how the law is written, that they go through conditional for,
So it's the
Environmental
law, not a
assessment.
regulation.
It
So
is.
we probably need to look at the law and amend that and remove vehicle repair general from the dealership or automobile sales and service because it's two completely different types of, business. and we're creating unnecessary layers of steps, right? For a car dealership, which is already, it's common knowledge that that's what they do. I can understand if it's a business strictly providing repair services, okay, I can understand them to go through the whole process of, the conditional use, but for a car dealership to also require them that they, so maybe that's definitely something that we need to look at the existing law and make that amendment so that we can separate the two different distinct types of business,
Yes.
right? Because I can see now where that
I
can
believe it's, yes, just the type of activities that's involved.
Yes.
Again, and that's what zoning is all about. It assesses any
Okay,
impact that it will create to the environment
okay,
and the properties.
all right. I think I understand it now after spending.
Is it the laws, the zoning laws, or us, our laws? Which one are we gonna?
The zoning law is our laws,
Oh, okay.
yeah, which only applies to Saipan.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think I get it now.
So here's my question then, Chairwoman. If we're gonna do this, then that goes back to your question. What is the financial impact then now, because they're already there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it poses the question, again, reverses it back to the zoning board.
yes,
You fix it, because this should not,
yeah,
we're fixing something that was already there, and it was in existence. At the time the zoning went through all of these things, and they should have already known to clean it up, right? Because they do that on resolution, they do that on all these other things. I really recommend honestly that we table this, and Ms. Ogumoro, go back to your board and say, I wish you guys join me there, because a lot of the questions were really pertaining to their action. And let them be the ones to fix it.
yes. Thank you, Rep, for your recommendation. And yes, she is right, Ms. Ogumoro. You're just here trying to do your job and trying to, enforce the law. And really, a lot of these decisions and actions that are being taken are at the board level.
Yes.
So we do appreciate you doing your best to provide us with some
Thank you.
answers to our questions.
May I
right?
ask?
Sure.
Yes. May I ask if is there something preventing AK from continuing its operation? Is it dependent on this?
I have no knowledge
Because
of.
as far as I know, they can continue. I mean,
Okay.
nothing is holding.
To answer your question, I personally have no knowledge of anything related to AK. I'm just simply facilitating this meeting so we can entertain this bill that's before us and take action, whatever action do we need to take.
Yeah,
But we also want to be responsible and due diligence to ensure that, zoning as a stakeholder has input. And if it requires amendments, then that's what we would need to do. But this is why I'm asking, like, are there any specific language on the proposed description or of the bill that zoning would like to strike out or replace with something else? Because I think it's a
Yes, I
very
did.
straightforward bill. It's really providing more description on what an automobile sales and service is. This took us like almost, a couple hours to discuss, the proposed amendment, and which is simply just to provide additional explanation on what is considered, automobile sales and service. And if it's something in the language here on the proposed amendment that is, that zoning is not comfortable with or would like to replace it, I don't know.
Yeah, I did indicate, Chairwoman. There may be, like I said, if we are only given enough time to look at it, but most obvious is the paint work and body work.
Okay, so this was
And
pre-
these are activities that really need to go through conditional use.
From my understanding, so based on what I have in front of me, this was pre-filed back in March, but from what I understand, this proposed amendment was actually introduced last legislature, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe at that point too, zoning requested for additional time, so it's been over a year since this very same bill was introduced, and I would think that, you know, gave zoning ample time to come up with a description that they are comfortable with. You know, if they're not comfortable with some of the language here on the proposed bill. I just don't want to take another year to act on a bill that's very straightforward and, I mean, council, is there anything that's stopping them? Like, let's say we pass this in its original form. Is there anything stopping zoning from adding more definition to? Right, at the regulation level, they can certainly, provide better definition if you. Yeah,
7242?
7242,
And that brings me to, again, my question. Is there, because we're only
Okay,
looking
okay.
at it as, asking your
Okay.
permission if we
wait,
can.
short recess, thank
Oh,
you. Okay.
okay.
on recess. Thank you, everyone, again for your time. I believe we've already asked all the questions we could ask to Mr. Gamoro, and we thank you for your patience and your understanding in trying to provide us with answers to the best of your ability. Obviously, we need to have further discussions, maybe with the board. But I will reach out to the author of the bill and try to get an understanding of the urgency of this bill, if we need to move quickly on it, or we can wait for your board approval and public hearing that's going to take place in the next couple of months or so. So, Ms. Ogumoro, undang ko na si Dusmasi for making the time to come up to the legislature and answer our questions. And if there are no other questions from the members, you are free to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and Chairwoman and members. Hiliso.
Yes, have a great day and be safe out there. All right, members, undang ko na si Dusmasi lokwe para izumizu tempo. Thank you. Esta.